I won't stop till I hear him say,
Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. I have a very in-depth video breakdown for you all today. This is going to be a little bit more of a lengthy one, so make sure that you stick around. This is jam-packed full of information. I'm going to attempt to keep it PG so that way I don't get monetized and I can actually upload this on YouTube. So with that being said, every single thing that I cover in this video breakdown is my personal opinion. All right, that means, you guys need to take it upon yourself to do your own research. This is just based off of fundamentals that have come out recently, things that I've pieced together. So I'm going to start with my introduction to this. Okay, we're going to be talking about this new world order, this massive digital infrastructure that's being implemented right now, and what it is that I believe is going on behind the scenes. So we're going to be focusing on some key factors, some keywords, as always: new world order, central bank digital currencies, the digital transformation, China, Russia, right? Things of that nature. Okay. Control is a big one, a big vocabulary word that we're going to be paying attention to today. So I'm going to start with this introduction. The majority of the general public has no idea what type of mass monitoring and control on a global scale is about to be put in place. In some countries, obviously, of course, this is already happening. Specifically, we've seen examples in China where they have this social credit system fully implemented and put in place, monitoring and tracking, controlling their citizens' every single move, right? It is important to understand what type of system is coming and how this new system will be used to track, trace, and control an individual's every move and purchase in the future. Now, what I want you to truly understand is there is a shift happening in the form of the global reserve currency. And there is often a crisis or significant shift in the global economic and political landscape that can lead to a change in the global reserve currency. For example, the US dollar became the dominant global reserve currency after World War II, when the US emerged as the world's leading economic power, and the US dollar was pegged to gold under the Bretton Woods system. However, crises such as the oil shocks of 1970s pay attention, because I truly believe that oil is going to play a big role in what is about to take place via some fundamentals that I'm going to show you all in today's video breakdown. Now, the collapse of the Bretton Woods system and the financial crisis of 2008 have led to a decline in the US dollar's dominance as the global reserve currency. And other countries such as China, Russia, and the European Union have sought to challenge the US dollar's dominance by promoting their own currencies as alternatives. Now, that is massive surrounding what it is that we're going to cover in today's video breakdown. All in all, geopolitical tensions can also play a role in the shift of the global reserve currency. For example, US sanctions on Iran and Russia have led to those countries to seek alternatives to the US dollar international transactions, and China's increasing economic political power has led to it challenging the US dollar's dominance. So those are all geopolitical things that are going on in the world right now, the macro environment. And I've said in previous video breakdowns that in order for this digital transformation to fully be implemented, in order for the global reserve currency status of the United States dollar to shift hands, there has to be some type of catalyst, regardless if it's a positive one or a negative one. Now, history has shown that 9 times out of 10, it's a negative implication that happens to the geopolitical, the macro environment, in order for the global reserve currency status to shift hands. And we are in the making of that. The United States dollar has held the global reserve currency status for 79 years as of this year. And every 60 to 100 years, that status changes hands. So we're on the brink of experiencing that and living through that. Now, it is going to be a slow and steady process. Influencers out there in the mainstream, they will lead you to believe that it's going to be some type of overnight flip of the switch thing. It's not. It's going to be a long, drawn out process that most likely won't come into full effect until 2025, 2026, 2027, maybe even leading up to the 2030 agenda, right? So with that being said, let's go down the rabbit hole. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit more of an in-depth, longer video breakdown, so stick around. I do appreciate the love and the support. And if you would, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. It does help boost the algorithm, because this is going to be a longer video breakdown. It will definitely help boost boost that algorithm and push this video out to more individuals like yourselves who are interested in this information. Alongside, if you have any opinions or comments, make sure that you leave a comment in the description down below this video. I'd love to hear your take on some of the things that I say in this video breakdown. So with that being said, we're going to start here on this tweet that's going to lead us down the rabbit hole of all these fundamentals that I have for you all today. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, again, this is all my personal opinion based off of the fundamentals that I've been reading and what I've been seeing in the market. I'm not sitting here saying that every single thing in this specific tweet that we're going to start is going to come into fruition, but I have a high hinge, right, that the majority of these things in this tweet are going to come into fruition over the next decade. Okay, could be a lot sooner, but to predict time in this market is any mature investor knows never to try and attempt to predict timing in the market. Okay, so I go on to say here, their plan all along the past 20 to 30 years has been to wipe out the banking system, which they are currently doing. The U.S. has seen over 10,000 bank closures in 30 years. The ECB particularly has seen over 5,000 closures in the last 23 years. Now, people will think that I'm just making this stuff up. No, I actually pull resources for you all to support what it is that I'm attempting to provide to you all in the form of knowledge and information. You guys can see this is the Federal Reserve of St. Louis website. And it goes on to say this is a document or a fundamental that came out December 9th, 2021. It says, slow, steady decline in the number of U.S. banks continues. Right down here, just to show you some statistics, it says a new era in banking. Pay attention, because that's the first mention of a new world, right? This new world order vocabulary that we're going to be dialing in on in today's video breakdown. It goes on to say, high rates of the bank chartering failures and mergers. More than 10,000 banks have disappeared during this period. Again, over the last 30 years. I also materialized some ECB references. And what goes on to say, here's an ECB reference right here. More than 5,000 branches shut across EU as banks slash costs. Banks cut 5,500 branches across the European Union. Now, in my personal opinion, why is this happening? Because central banks, the main head honchos, alongside the Bank of International Settlements, they want more control over the monetary system. Now, in order for them to do that, they have to create a more centralized system where only a few banking elites, i.e. the central banks, have full control over the monetary system, okay? So that is what we're seeing right now subliminally behind the scenes. We're seeing massive bank closures across the board. This has been a long, drawn-out process that has been taking place over the last 30 years, as you guys have seen the statistics now. And this, in my personal opinion, is a massive plan to create, like I said, a centralized system to fully roll out their CBDCs to track, control, and monitor every single individual on this earth, okay? So I go on to say, overall, again, in my opinion, they seek to ban crypto, which we've seen major headlines come out, and we'll get into that in just one second, because it disrupts their centralized plan. We will continue to see governmental entities scrutinize digital assets, which we've also seen. Specifically, we've seen an economic report from the White House come out where they literally just dump on crypto assets, spreading massive FUD, and we'll get into that in today's video breakdown. Even though we know for a fact they do have fundamental value, i.e. cryptocurrencies, and cryptos are good for payments. This is all in order, and again, my personal opinion, to stall while they subliminally roll out their CBDC, which will allow their centralized plan to come into full swing. The last order of business, this is where we're going to get into the fundamentals. The last order of business is the fallout of the crisis, which we will see, in my opinion, again, in the next 1 to 3 years minimum. Lives will be lost, people will suffer. When all seems to be as bad as it can get, the government will offer a safe alternative. Remember those words as well, safe alternative. I forgot to write that down in the key vocab that we're going to be looking for. In the form of digital money. They will give you incentives and offer you free units of their digital currency, which they will use to track, monitor, and control you. But the average person will be so tired of suffering from their planned agenda that it won't matter. No one will fight what's coming. People will line up to get their handouts from the government, who will claim their digital solutions will fix all the catastrophic events taking place. You will give up your sovereignty because we were tricked into believing you had no choice. This is all, in my opinion, part of their plan. This is why I tell people only to invest in crypto with money they're willing to lose. there are over 23,000 cryptocurrencies, and their master plan is only involving 10 to 50 of them max. We can only assume and speculate which ones those will be. However, the inevitability digital slave future is coming. Nothing is by design. Everything has been planned by the all who sleep sound at night while you suffer. Okay? So we're going to get into this in today's video breakdown. Now, I don't know if you have an opinion about what it is that I just said. Like I said, comment in the description down below. If you do, smash that thumbs up button. We do appreciate the love and the support. So we're going to start here. Now, I don't really like this individual, Max Kaiser. He said some pretty messed up things about individuals outside of Bitcoin maximalists. But something that he did say back in 2017 was the fall of this U.S. empire, and that we will go to war eventually with nations like and an event to stop the emergence of the petrodollar, right? So that's what we're going to start on in today's video breakdown. Now, to support this, these are headlines and articles. This specifically came out in January of this year, 2023, that didn't really get a lot of attention. I mean, this is a freaking massive headline. It goes on to say, Air Force General predicts war with China in 2025. Tells officers to prep by firing a clip at a target, and goes on to say, but what I want you to focus on is the date, 2025. Remember, this digital transformation, the switching hands of the global reserve currency is not going to be an overnight thing. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, okay? Mainly because of mainstream influencers boasting a bull market and talking about this and that, making people think it's going to be some overnight thing. It's not, okay? It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Right now, imagine a massive pot of soup, right? Boiling soup, you're boiling some soup, and you just keep adding ingredients. Well, right now, what they're doing is they're adding ingredients to their master recipe, and eventually, when they add enough ingredients, the pot's going to continue to get full alongside of the water boiling up, and eventually it's going to have a tipping point. It's going to overflow, it's going to implode, and watch, everything's going to come crashing down in the next couple of years. Like I said, in my personal opinion, it's going to happen in the next 1 to 3 years minimum. We're going to see some massive catalyst that's going to put this into full swing. Okay. So with that being said, and this article out of the way, let's move on. So we know recently this was put out by Genevieve Roche. She goes on to say in this tweet, the China President Xi to Putin, they shook hands after their meeting of the president flying to Russia and meeting with President Putin. Okay. And they specifically say right here, a change that hasn't happened in 100 years is coming, before they shake hands and the Chinese president leaves and goes into the night, right? And it goes on to say, are China and Russia plotting to replace the US as the world superpower? I'm going to show you all documents from the Council of Foreign Relations where they told people this was going to happen, and an official PDF where they talk about the new world order that came out years ago. Y'all understand, like I said, this is all part of the plan. This is nothing new, but the mainstream media will make it seem like it's, oh my gosh, it's something that's breaking. It's something that's just now happening. No, watch what I'm going to show you guys. We're going to specifically dial in on those key vocabulary words: control, new world order, right? Central bank digital currencies, things of that nature. So I thought that I'd share that with you all, because they're literally, while all this other crap is going on, behind the scenes, shaking hands, talking about a change that hasn't happened in 100 years is coming. Remember, I said at the beginning of this call, what has to happen in order for the global reserve currency status to switch hands? Number one, a major catastrophic event. Okay. Number two, every 60 to 100 years has to take place a shift. Well, U.S. dominance has taken place for the last 79 years, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Moving on. This was an interesting tweet from Savannah Hernandez. She goes on to say, I will always ask young Americans what they think about the biggest issue facing the country is, and it's always mental health. Okay, that's what their response is. They disregard the banking crisis, the Fed hiking up interest rates, relations with China and Russia, our open border, rising crime rates, and the weaponization of our justice system. Now that one took my interest because of everything that's going on with the SEC right now surrounding cryptocurrency, and how the US is just lagging behind with this digital adoption. Okay, and we'll get into that as well in this call. So it goes on to say, by Savannah Hernandez. She says, the ignorance of younger generations are currently and will continue to run this country into the ground. If you all agree with that, comment in the description down below. And again, smash that thumbs up button. This is a massive statement from Savannah Hernandez. So let's get into this, okay? We know via some recent fundamentals, this came out January 8th, 2023. China looks to weaken the US dollar with the petro yuan as oil producers rally to Beijing, and Russia has become an Asian nation. Now, remember, I told you guys in the previous breakdown, okay, I told you guys right here, pay attention to the word oil. That's going to play a massive and important role in this transformation that's about to happen. Because what I firmly believe is going to take place is this massive war over oil, the petrodollar, the petro yuan, right? Okay. So moving on, this article goes on to read some interesting highlights. While the dollar will likely remain the dominant global reserve currency in the near future, remember, vocabulary is everything, in the near future, the rise of the so-called petro yuan will gain momentum as China leverages its status as the world's biggest oil importer, analysts say. The greenback remains the top currency for trade and foreign reserves, but Beijing is increasingly pushing the yuan as a currency for oil deals, challenging the dollar's lead in commodity markets. Now, I want to pause right here for a second, and I want you guys to think of something throughout this entire breakdown. Towards the end of this, remember I said to you guys at the beginning, there's over 23,000 cryptocurrencies that need to go bust and go away completely. What is going to be the catalyst? I want you to think in your head throughout this whole video. What is going to be the catalyst that wipes the slate clean? This market cannot operate efficiently with 23,000 illicit market participants still operating in this space. So there has to be a catalyst. Remember, I mentioned to you guys the boiling pot, and everything right now is brewing up. Okay. Pay close attention, because you guys are going to start to see the rabbit hole open up and the questions that I'm trying to get you guys asking yourselves. During the trip to Saudi Arabia, this article continues. During the trip to Saudi Arabia last month, Chinese president, I'm not going to butcher his name, Jinping, I hope that I'm not butchering his name, urged countries in the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, to use the Shanghai Petroleum and National Gas Exchange to carry out yuan-based energy deals. China and Saudi Arabia also signed over $30 billion in trade deals during the visit. The trip marked the birth of the petro yuan. According to the recent note from Credit Suisse, an analyst, Zoltar Pozdar, hope I'm not butchering names, who said China wants to de-dollarize part of the world after the currency's dominant status was used against Russia. Now, when did this all take place? Obviously, of course, during the full swing of the war against Ukraine, okay, back in 2021. You guys remember that? Heading into 2022, we saw a bunch of Russian sanctions and whatnot. This is when China and Russia really started to kick up their partnership, okay? Moving on. So scrolling up to the top of this document, this is from Mises Institute, and it goes on to read some interesting highlights. In 1974, Henry Kissinger broke a deal. For those of you who aren't too familiar with the petrodollar, this is just a little bit of a background on this. Henry Kissinger broke a deal. Israel would back off its territorial ambitions. The Arab states would end the embargo, and oil would be traded in dollars. Thus, the petrodollar was born. Every economy needs energy. Saudi Arabia supplies plenty of oil, meaning that the dollar was backed up by valuable commodities that would always be a recipient of the demand. Everyone wants oil, and the Saudis would only trade it for dollars. So the dollar became unavoidable in international trade, reaffirming its status as the world reserve currency. Well, what did we just see in the previous fundamental? That has now ceased to exist. The trip, obviously, of course, during the Saudi Arabia visit from the Chinese president last month, constructed the birth of the petro yuan, okay? And again, what does China want to do? China wants to de-dollarize part of the world after its whole entire conflict and involvement with the Ukraine war, right? You guys see how it's all starting to kind of piece together. Again, like I said, I always full circle things, so stick around for the whole entire video because it's going to full swing towards the end. We go on to say right here, decoupling is a tricky proposition as the country's economies have been tied up with the dollar for decades. Remember, I said this is not going to be an overnight process. This is going to be a long, drawn-out schematic that is going to take time. There is also a risk of Washington violently lashing out to maintain its hegemonic status. Now, again, remember, what are we seeing in the headlines? That The United States is most likely going to go to war with China by 2025, right? Well, we know that every single time somebody has tried to get out of the petrodollar system, they have been met with force, okay? So here's another fundamental. We'll come back to reading the rest of the highlights from this one, but just to support my theory and what it is that I'm saying to you guys, every single time somebody goes against the petrodollar, they're met with some type of conflict by the United States. This article goes on to say, and it mentions a new world order. So again, this is now the second reference to, remember the first document said a new era. This document says a new world order. It says oil and the new world order, China, Iran, and Eurasia. Highlights from this document goes on to say, the world oil market will undergo a fundamental change in the future. Choosing petrodollars or oil wars is no longer a question that can be answered. With the strategic agreement and comprehensive economic security partnership between China and Iran officially signed by the foreign ministers of both countries in Tehran on March 27, 2021, the petrodollar theorem is broken and the empire built by the US dollar is cracked. This is because the petrodollar has not brought substantial economic development to the oil-producing countries in the Middle East during over half a century of linkage to the US dollar. If the Middle East countries wanted to escape the control of the dollar, they should face the threat of war from the United States and its allies. Things we've seen over and over again, just think of, I'm not going to say this name out loud. I'm going to highlight it in blue for you guys so you guys can zoom in. I don't want to get this taken down from YouTube for saying this name. But again, this individual that was involved in trying to escape the petrodollar being supported when he was fighting Iran and later being public enemy number one when he started trading oil in euros. And again, the United States brought force against him. So what do you think is most likely going to end up happening if China and Russia are attempting to create this new petro-yuan system, right? The United States is not going to like that. In my personal opinion, this prediction, again, I'm just covering this. This is a prediction from the Air Force, from an Air Force general, right? Saying that we're most likely going to go to war with China by 2025. Again, these things take time. And what do we see happening right now? The collapse of the petrodollar and the rise of a new empire. Again, a new world order. You guys can see that. All having to do with oil, all in order to, watch what I'm going to full circle this, in place this digital system. Okay, the CBDC, the centralized system controlled by the central banks. This is pretty nuts if you really think about what I'm talking about. This is even insane that I have to make a video like this. So back to this article, it goes on to say, a falling dollar will have disastrous consequences for the US as there is not enough manufacturing or non-financial services in its economy. Imports will suddenly be expensive and the quality of life will drop. Much of the establishment isn't as hard-headed as those who come before and doesn't conceive the possibility of Washington losing. The bad news is that this will lead to the drawn-out collapse of the dollar, which Washington will attempt to parlay into a new central bank digital currency to accompany an increased crackdown on oppositions within dwindling empires. What? Okay, watch how I'm about to, this is just so insane, okay? So now let's get into some official PDFs. This is a PDF from JP Morgan, and look at what it says. It goes on to say, the lifeboat economy, implications of a fracturing world order. Again, from a major entity, JP Morgan. If you don't know anything about JP Morgan and its history surrounding the Federal Reserve and how it was involved way, way back in the day of saving the United States economy, and that's why JP Morgan is always at the forefront of the United States economy, go do your research, read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. It'll fully disclose to you how JP Morgan was involved in the saving of the United States economy way back in the day and why they are a key player, which is why I'm even referencing this PDF, okay? So if we scroll down on this PDF to page 41, okay, this is where it's going to start to get interesting again. I don't believe in coincidences. And when you have things, specific key vocabulary appearing in multiple fundamentals across the board, all talking about the same thing, central bank digital currencies, the rise of a new empire surrounding oil, right? Okay, the fall of the petrodollar, the rise of the petro-yuan, okay? It cannot be a coincidence. See, Lizzie, they drop gems like this, knowing and capitalizing on the general public's ignorance. Okay, before I get into this document, remember this tweet from Savannah Hernandez. The ignorance of the younger generations are currently and will continue to run this country to the ground. These individuals capitalize on the fact that they know when they put out these fundamental PDFs that only about 0.0005% of the population will read them. They have control over the minds of a 99.00005 whatever percent of the population's minds, okay? Individuals like you and I listening to this or involved in the CYPRX community are the very small percentage of people that are awake and aware to what's going on, okay? So this fundamental from JP Morgan goes on to say, again, pay attention to vocabulary. The macroeconomic uncertainty, hedge funds, and market volatility. The convergence of macroeconomic factors occurring simultaneously include inflationary pressures on food and energy prices, the strained global supply chains, decelerating global economic growth. Remember, I talked to you guys about banks going bust, decreasing over time, over 10,000 in the US, over 5,000 in the ECB, right? So again, decelerating global economic growth and geopolitical instability collectively has destabilizing impacts on the global economy. The political implications of an emerging new world order will impact countries globally, creating imbalances as countries identify secure energy and food resources and revive domestic regionalized supply chains. As a result, the near to medium term environment is likely to create greater macroeconomic uncertainty. Boom. In this fundamental document from JP Morgan, it literally mentions a new world order and has to do with energy supply, has to do with destabilizing impacts on the global economy because of geopolitical implications. You guys see how massive this is. Not enough? Let's move on. Remember, I was mentioning to you guys about a Council of Foreign Relations document. You cannot make this up. Look what the name of this document is that came out May 2020. It says, Council on Foreign Relations, the end of world order in America foreign policy. What? Again, mentioning this new era, okay? This new world order, this end of the old world, entering into the new world, right? So notes from this document, again, an official document from the Council of Foreign Relations. I try to give you guys the best information. If we scroll down here to page 21 is the first very interesting statement from this document. And it goes on to say, it is not so much that the major powers seek to directly overturn the old order. It is that in many respects, the new world order and the old rules are in parallel universes. So it literally tells you right here that there is a potential new world order. Again, this is coming from the Council of Foreign Relations. These individuals, they drop gems. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just piecing the breadcrumbs together for you. And again, it says right here at the bottom of their document, the end of a world order, right? Moving on, let's go to page 23. And it goes on to say, all right, so it talks about this China-United States conflict. This is the most interesting part right here. We've been talking about this China and United States-Russia conflict and a potential outbreak of war in 2025. Well, this United Nations document that is from 2020, mind you, goes on to say, for its part, China seeks to comprehensively undermine U.S. alliances and to eventually replace the United States as both the most important power in Asia and the world's technological leader. What? Hold on. This document came out in 2020. Do you guys see how it is a long, steady, drawn-out process? They are attempting to replace the United States as both the most important power in Asia and the world's technological leader. What is the United States doing right now? Lacking in this digital adoption curve. They are not, do you guys understand? They're not boasting cryptocurrencies right now. They're trying to ban them. They're trying to put out FUD about them. The SEC is just completely overcharging the cryptocurrency space and putting out, I'm going to get into this. It's all part of the plan. The United States, people don't understand. Let me just throw something out there, okay? You guys need to go read this book. It's called The Tower of Basel. It talks about the Bank of International Settlements. What the mainstream public does not understand is that from the political perspective in the mainstream media, you'll see all these conflicts, Russia, China, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, United States, okay? Brazil, whatever, right? That's what's broadcasted on CNBC. That's what's broadcasted on ABC. But what you don't understand is in Switzerland, there is a place called the Bank of International Settlements. And every single major central bank all around the world has a representative that goes and sits at coffee meetings and dinner meetings and discusses the monetary state of the world. So how is it that we're at quote unquote geopolitical conflicts with all of these nations, right? Russia, China, whatever the case may be, but yet an establishment, the Bank of International Settlements, has multiple during the week dinner meetings with major central banks from all of these quote unquote conflicting nations that eat and talk peacefully. Do you guys see? Do you guys see what I just said to you all? It is all a game. How is it that we're always in the form of the general public's eye at conflict with other nations, yet these central bankers behind the scenes are laughing, they're talking, they're chilling, they're making monetary decisions about the global economy, all at the same table? Do you guys see what I'm seeing? I'm telling you, go read the book, The Tower of Babel. It is a massive eye-opener. I cannot stress enough. It'll literally just blow your freaking mind. So I go on to say here, again, this where they're talking about China seeking to comprehensively undermine the U.S. alliances and to eventually replace the dollar as the world's superpower and technological leader, again, coming from the United Nations all the way back in 2020. Now, Max Kaiser, again, like I said, I don't really support that individual, doesn't really seem so crazy. Or this Air Force general that predicts war in 2025 with China. Or myself, who told you guys that there has to be some kind of major catastrophic event in order for the transformation of the global reserve currency over to another one, or this digital transformation, or whatever is going to happen. Okay, there has to be some type of fallout catalyst, right? Oh my goodness, this is so insane. So moving on, I go on to say in another tweet, we're now halfway through the video. If your mind's not blown yet as to what it is that I'm saying, I don't know how else to blow people's minds and to wake people up. Okay, comment in the description down below any of your opinions, by the way. Okay, again, this is all my personal opinion based off of the findings that I've shown you guys so far. And we have more. Now we're going to start to transition. Now we're going to start to transition and capitalize on this last statement from the Council of Foreign Relations, where they go on to talk about the United States being replaced as the technological leader. We're going to start to go down that rabbit hole, okay? Think about what's about to happen. This whole quote unquote, you can't trust banks, okay? But what you can trust is our latest technology. Here's some free CBDC money since the bank wouldn't give you your cash, right? If the banks are failing and people can't go withdraw their money, but they can have access to this digital currency, the CBDC, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? They're going to line up at the door, okay? So let's go down this rabbit hole right now. Remember, I've talked to you guys about so far how the United States is falling behind. What is China attempting to do? Replace the United States as the world technological leader. Again, all these individuals, these elite entities work behind the scenes. They already know what's happening. The United States is working with, they're working with the global economic system to support this, but they're going to pretend like they're not. Look at this article from Cointelegraph. It says, crypto FUD, industry outraged as White House report slams crypto. So again, lagging and falling behind in this crypto adoption curve. Crypto executives have expressed irritation over the latest White House economic report, which notably features an entire chapter dedicated to casting doubts on the merit of digital assets. The economic report from the president released on March 20th marks the first time the White House has included an entire section on digital assets since it first began issuing the annual economic policy report in 1950. Again, pay attention to the dates. This is all important. Remember, what did President Putin and the president of China just shake hands and say? A massive transformation that the world has not seen in 100 years. Come on now? Do you guys see, right? It's all part of the plan. It goes on to say the co-founder of digital asset investment firm Paradigm, Fred Eshram, remarked that 15% of the economic report, talking about this report from the White House, was dedicated to crypto FUD. Here's some interesting highlights. It goes on to say the reality of crypto assets. Crypto assets are most likely speculative. Crypto assets generally do not perform well. It goes on to say crypto assets can be harmful to consumers and investors. There have been limited economic benefits from distributed ledger technology, and that's false. The risk of financial innovation, other risks from crypto assets, like literally just FUD. Again, what is China attempting to do? Destabilize the United States from being a technological leader. What do central bankers do in Switzerland every single week? There's a representative from the People's Bank of China. There's a representative from the Federal Reserve sitting at the same table together. I promise you, look it up. Sitting together, talking about the global economy. Yet, here in the mainstream, what's being broadcasted to us, like there's some type of major conflict going on. Do you see what I'm seeing? Okay. Moving on. The next article to support this whole entire digital transformation thesis in this new world agenda. This is also from Cointelegraph. If a government bans drugs, it should also ban crypto. Remember, I talked to you guys about nations and countries attempting to ban crypto and not support this digital transformation, all to create this centralized system. I'm going to show you some documents that support my theory so people aren't like, oh, you're making this up, Cypress. No, I'm going to show you documents from the ECB, from the central bank that say they want to be able to control the monetary system, okay? Members of the European Parliament have discussed the impact of the failure of Silicon Valley banks, Signature Bank and Silvergate on markets and their jurisdictions. This individual right here, the Finance of Belgium minister, has called for a strict ban on crypto as a result of the current banking crisis. Now, why is this important? Again, we're seeing industry FUD from the White House. We're seeing bans on crypto being announced from the EC or the European Parliament, right? Look at this article from Cointelegraph. Isn't it interesting how they come out at different dates, right? Did regulators intentionally cause a run on banks? Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate Bank were crucial to many crypto industries and is fueling theories that regulators encouraged their downfall. Why would they do something like that, right? I wonder. But why now? Quick rising interest rates are extremely disruptive to banking models, but the collapse of these particular banks have raised eyebrows. It just so happens that these banks are important to the cryptocurrency industry. Government agencies often use selective enforcement of convoluted or unclear rules and regulations to pursue agendas. They can then defend the action by saying that it's in the public's interest and that the public's interest was at stake. I highlighted that in red because watch this. This is literally nuts, okay? So moving on again, asking yourself the question, has this all been a systematic scheme to get rid of banks, to get rid of this decentralized financial system, to create a more centralized system where the central banks, again, who meet in Switzerland at the Bank of International Settlements building every single week and talk about the global monetary policy, okay? Banking crisis potentially accelerates CBDC development in the US. In the wake of several banks collapsing in the United States, it doesn't take much of an imagination to believe that the Federal Reserve might use this crisis to its advantage. While the wide-scale bank runs have failed to materialize and confidence in the banking system remains intact for now, central banks are already preparing for the inevitable end of the fiat banking system. Do you guys see that sentence right there? Central banks are already preparing for the inevitable end of the fiat money banking system. While this is complicated in a drawn-out process, again, supporting what it is that I've been telling you guys, it's not going to be overnight. The fall of Silicon Valley Bank could inject new impetus into the crossover to digital banking currencies, or CBDCs, okay? Moving on down here, this is where it gets interesting. The Fed is floating the idea of backstopping all deposits. While we are now delving into speculative territory, this latest announcement raises eyebrows around the TDR newsroom. Today, it was announced that the U.S. officials are studying ways they might temporarily expand Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation's coverage to all deposits, a move sought by coalitions of banks are arguing that it's needed to head off potential financial crises. While the Fed's intent might be a noble one, an unlimited deposit bank would be highly inflationary policy if implemented, as inflation by definition, the act of inflation, something or the condition of being inflated, the prodigious money supply that would follow could play into the role of the central bank digital currency ambitions. It goes on to say, I have this highlighted in red, the US currency would be more prone to accelerated inflation and eventually collapse. Then enter a new monetary system to have the old one and the old Fed helped bring down. You got what? You guys see how time and time again, this whole the mention of a new monetary system, time and time again has been mentioned, right? And what do we see? All the way from the beginning of this video breakdown, I showed you how over the past 30 years, they have been decreasing banks. Banks have been disappearing, 10,000 banks, like I said. And again, in this document, from where? I'm not making this up. The Federal Reserve Bank, what do they say at the beginning of this document? A new era of banking. Now we're on this document, and what does it go on to say? To enter in a new monetary system, and it's talking about them potentially collapsing these banks related to cryptocurrencies on purpose so they can release statements like this, talking about crypto, FUDing crypto, all in order to do what? Again, a document from where? The Council of Foreign Relations, where they announced in 2020 the Chinese plan to do what? Bring the United States to its knees and replace it as the world's technological leader. Do you guys see what I'm seeing? Please tell me. Somebody smash that thumbs up button and comment in the description below. I don't know what else to do, you know? Hopefully I'm piecing this together in a way where you guys can understand it and you're not like, oh, this dude's freaking psycho. Moving on. Another article from Cointelegraph. Cointelegraph's on dropping gems on gems on gems. This came out 18 hours ago. Adopting CBDCs could help destabilize banks and help households use Treasury study says. Now look at this. Remember in the previous article, I highlighted right here, they can then defend the action by saying that it's in the public's interests, right? The best public's interest. Well, look at this article from Cointelegraph. It goes on to say, when integrated into the economy, central bank digital currencies or stablecoins would compete with bank deposits and could be a public benefit. Do you guys see what they're about to do? They're going to continue with this crisis bullcrap, and they're going to tell everybody that the central bank digital currency is going to be the fix to it all. Remember, I told you guys in the tweet, people are going to line up at the door when they're tired of suffering. And the only answer that they see fit, because it's the only thing that's broadcasted to them, is the central bank digital currency, and they're going to get free money. They're going to be like, yep, let me get it. Let me get some, okay? Fully integrating a stablecoin or central bank digital currency, this goes on to read, into the economy would destabilize banks but improve household welfare. A study released by whom other than a United States Treasury Division has claimed the harm to banking is caused by digital currencies, and it could be significant in times of stress. The Office of Financial Research study considered a theoretical stable state in the financial sector after a stablecoin or CBDC has been successfully introduced. The contrast was studies that looked at the risk of bank runs and disintermediation caused by the introduction of digital currencies. The authors also present studies saw risks of systematic deleveraging, that is, a reduction in banks' equity, leading to reduced stability in times of crises after introduction of a digital currency. You guys see, after times of a crisis, introducing a digital currency, what's about to happen? A war with China potentially. What is China attempting to do? They're attempting to replace the United States as the leader in the tech industry. What is the United States doing all at the same time? Bashing cryptocurrency, not supporting this digital revolution. Don't think I'm crazy yet, because watch this. Everybody's like, oh, you can piece the new world order together and da. This is the economic report from the White House, and it mentions the new world order 2 times. And what does it have to do particularly with when it mentions this new world? A digital market. Mind blown, drops mic. Here's the fundamental right here, okay? You guys can go look at it. The economic report of the president from the White House. Excuse me, okay? And it goes on to say on page 49, we'll just scroll down to the bottom, right? I'm not making this stuff up. Key vocabulary always plays an important role in this stuff, and you got to be able to piece it together. It goes on to say, investing in the economy's productivity, the new world of digital markets. We'll move on. So remember how I told you guys, we have some documentation officially from the central bank where they meet in secret, behind the scenes, all major central banks around the world, while they lead everybody to believe that we're in geopolitical conflict with these nations all around the world, when literally they have representatives from Brazil, from China, from Switzerland, from Europe, from the United States, from Canada, all sitting at the same table together. Cannot stress enough to go expand your knowledge. This BIS document, okay, come up to the top just to show you guys it's a BIS document that came out in March. Come on, like I said, long drawn out process of 2018. This is years ago, before the CV19, right? Okay. Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure, Central Bank Digital Currencies, boom, 2018, long drawn out plan. If we scroll down here to page 12, okay, let's see where it says and talks about control. All right, limits or caps. Now, again, this isn't specifically either talking about wholesale or retail CBDCs, which are two different things and do play an important role when it comes to the control of what the governments and the central banks will have over the CBDCs. But it's interesting that here in this document, it does say different forms of quantitative limits or caps on the use or holdings of CBDCs are often mentioned as a way of controlling potentially undesirable implications or to steer usage in a certain direction. Now, that is a lot of funky vocabulary. All in all, what does that mean? They can potentially steer and control usage or the direction in which people use their CBDCs if there is an undesirable implication. So if you are trying and attempting to, let's just say in the future, you've seen President Biden attempting to ban assault rifles, right? Well, if there's a central bank digital currency infrastructure and you want to go attempt to buy an assault rifle, but President Biden doesn't want you to buy an assault rifle, what do you think they're going to be able to do if they have a full rollout of the CBDC system? You're not going to no store to buy no assault rifle with your digital currency that they control. Come on now. Come on now, right? Wake up. Let's wake up together. Okay, so here we go. ECB. This is directly a PDF from the ECB, scrolling up to the top just to show you guys European Central Bank, Eurosystem Working Paper Series, the Economics of Central Bank Digital Currencies. And down on page 19, it goes on to talk about control as well. Okay, remember, when you have something being mentioned more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, it's not a coincidence, it is a plan, okay? It goes on to say, similarly, a CBDC introduction may allow governments to improve their control, let me zoom in, to improve their control over the payment infrastructure. This may be particularly valuable if the current system is dominated by foreign entities, which is the case for the European Union at the moment. Hold on right there. This is directly from the ECB saying that an introduction of CBDCs I'm not going to butcher the words, may allow governments to improve their control over the payment infrastructure. Do you guys see? Okay, please tell me I'm not losing my mind. So moving on, we're almost at the end of this. All right, I'll leave you guys with a couple of more fundamentals right here. This is a research paper from the Cato Institute, okay, about Cato. You know, you guys can pause this and read this real fast. I'll save the time, okay? If you just want to know who the Cato Institute is, they're an organization based out of Washington, D.C. that does in-depth research like myself, except they're obviously, of course, an official institute that does this. Now, they came out with an article on July 18, 2022. So again, ahead of when all of this really started to kick the can down the street. And it goes on to say, central bank digital currencies and freedoms are incompatible. 2 highlights from this. It goes on to say, at its core, this brave new world of monetary policy equates to the government saying that your money isn't really your money. Your property rights are subservient to the public good. Again, that mention of the public good or the public interest is always in mind, right? That's what they're going to utilize as a catalyst to transition everybody over smoothly. And the supposed necessity of managing the national economy. The truth is CBDCs are government's attempt to protect its privileged position and exert more control over people's money. Again, they're not just making this stuff up. Where are they most likely getting their information from? Official central banks, just like myself, who's showing you that they've literally come out with statements in their official documents saying CBDCs may allow governments to improve their control over payment infrastructures, right? We're not making this stuff up. I'm just trying to show you guys what you can do research on and take up your own bias, right? We see right here, the last statement they made, the real danger in CBDCs is that there is no limit to the level of control that governments could exert over people if money is purely electronic, provided directly by the government. CBDCs would give federal officials full control over the money going into and coming out of every person's account. This level of governmental control is not compatible with economic or political freedom. They don't care. I'm telling you all right now, they do not care. Now, remember I was talking to you guys about the lack of regulatory clarity in the United States. We've already seen via some official documents from the Council of Foreign Relations with their whole entire not supporting, but mention of the United States being destabilized by China as the world's technology leader. Well, why do you think things like this are happening right now in the United States? Like I said, in my personal belief, it is all part of the plan, okay? President Biden coming out with this economic report, flooding crypto. Banks all across the world, like the ECB, okay, putting out statements in their official documents talking about central bank digital currencies and the implications that they could have on governmental control. Meanwhile, putting out articles about banning cryptocurrency, right? Saying that cryptocurrency is like a drug, and that they should be banned, that they have no official use case. Why do you think that's happening? Okay, again, you have to ask yourself the question. Well, check this out. Actually, before I get into this real fast, here's the ending statement right here. So I said to you guys in a tweet just yesterday, is anyone else wondering what's going to be the catalyst that gets rid of the majority of these crypto assets? Because whatever the mass purge is, it's going to be coming soon. And if we want to truly see this market thrive, there is no way that this market survives long-term with over 23,000 crypto projects listed. This is a screenshot from coinmarketcap.com. There's over 23,000 cryptos, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Excuse me. There's no way. That's not realistic. For this market to thrive, that number has to go way below freaking, in my personal opinion, 1,000. Okay. This means so just think about what I just said. This means that something or someone has to wipe this crypto space clean. So just think of every single thing that I've presented to you in this video breakdown so far. What do you now think that that's going to be? If you have another opposing argument as to what that could potentially be, comment in the description down below. I would love to see somebody else put the pieces of the puzzle together like I am here in an attempt to just get people to see what it is that I'm seeing based off of the fundamentals that are readily available to us as retail investors. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm simply just displaying to you all what it is that I'm seeing in the form of these fundamentals. Now, last but not least, okay, we saw this thread come out. If you still have time and you're still here, you're a trooper for sticking around this long, drawn out video. I do apologize how long this was, but man, I had so much to get off my chest on this because so many people have been asking me to explain this tweet to you guys. So here we see a tweet, a thread put out by Paul Grewal. I don't know who this individual is. Maybe let's see who he is. Give me a second. Chief Legal Officer at Coinbase. Boom. Okay, so he's pretty much an important player. Coinbase is a very big exchange, if you don't already know, right? I'm sure that you do. Well, Coinbase received a Wells notice from the SEC after years of asking for reasonable crypto rules. We're disappointed that the SEC is considering courts over a constructive dialogue, but if courts are required, so be it. Think about every single thing that I've presented to you so far in this video breakdown as I read this thread. It's literally going to make so much sense to you now that you've watched this whole entire breakdown and you know that the overall quote unquote agenda of China is to do what? Destabilize the United States as the world superpower and the technological leader, right? So ask yourself again, it's just a question. Why do you think the SEC is acting like this? Remember I told you guys that these central bankers, they're all sitting together in meetings. Federal Reserve has a representative. Central Bank of China most likely has a representative that all sit at the Tower of Basel in Switzerland. Okay. Over the past 9 months, the CB, Coinbase, has met with the SEC more than 30 times, sharing details of our businesses to build a path to registration. During this time, the SEC hasn't even basically given zero feedback on what to change or how to register. Instead, today, we receive a Wells notice, again, an attack on the crypto market in the United States. What's being replaced in the United States as the technological leader by other nations? Think about it. When Coinbase filed to go public in 2021, our S1 described our business in much detail, including 57 references to staking and details on our asset listings processes. The SEC approved us to go public. What? Knowing those details, and now they have changed their mind on what is allowed. Interesting, huh? In 2018, we acquired 2 broker-dealer licenses in an effort to become regulated by the SEC. These licenses are currently dormant, and we have been unable to activate them with the SEC for digital asset securities. Last July, we filed a petition with the SEC calling for more regulatory clarity. We have yet to receive a response to our petition. Again, they filed this in last July. What? That's what? Come on now. For comparison, over many years, we've been able to successfully become licensed and regulated crypto businesses in a number of other jurisdictions around the world, including Singapore, Ireland, Australia, Germany. Again, remember the document that I just posted to you guys of what is China attempting to do? Dematerialize the United States from being the technological leader. Well, how is it that Coinbase has gone to other countries and gotten regulatory clarity, but here in the United States, they haven't? Huh? But the Council on Foreign Relations was predicting a fallout of the United States overtaken by China back in 2020? What? United States General Air Force commissioners, right? What are they doing? Predicting war with China in 2025? Do you guys see? Okay, moving on. We've also been able to successfully become regulated by another U.S. federal regulator, obtaining our DCM and DCO license from the CFTC and many other U.S. state regulators. The SEC remains a sole outlier here. We don't list securities. Of the thousands of plus crypto assets CB has reviewed over the years, only roughly 240 of those have met our standards to list on its platform. We believe a large number of crypto securities also exist and should be available to register and trade on SEC-registered brokers and exchanges, a point we've made repeatedly in our discussions. The truth is that today, there is no clear rulebook from the SEC on crypto, and efforts to engage with the SEC are met with silence or enforcement actions. They have not followed good faith rulemaking processing with industries as required under the APA. I'm assuming that that's some type of oath that they've taken, right? It's hard to throw the rulebook at an entire economic sector when there is no rulebook, and the people responsible for the rulebook can't even agree themselves what the rulebook should say, even as we've asked for a rulebook. So I just want you guys to ask yourself the question, what's going on right now in the world? There are so many problematic factors right now that are categorizing what it is that I'm saying to you guys into a potential outcome that could take place. I'm not saying that it is a fact that what I'm claiming is going to happen. Okay, again, in this tweet, I listed off a couple of different things. And like I said at the beginning of this video breakdown, I'm not saying that every single thing in this tweet is going to happen to the T, but I have a high belief and a high probability based off of the fundamentals that I've just shown you that I am probably correct. Now, it is not a fact. You all need to take it upon yourself to do your own research. I've always said, think about it. Think about this tweet that I posted to you guys. Every market participant in this space, please listen to me. Please, I cannot stress enough. I don't want to see anybody get crushed. Only invest in this market with money you're willing to lose. I've never disclosed to the general public how big my crypto portfolio is. My students know how big my crypto portfolio is. I have a lot of exposure to this market. But if my crypto portfolio goes to zero, I invest in other real assets that operate outside of the banking system: real estate, gold, silver, art, things of that nature, passive income businesses that generate me cash flow in case of a recession that are recession proof. I cannot stress enough to stop relying on digital assets because it is an uncertain space right now. I'm not saying to avoid them. Keep doing your research, do your due diligence, and hopefully we can trust in the legal system that's supposed to support the general public to come out on top and provide clarity here in the United States for the rest of the world as well to thrive in this crypto space. But there is a bottom line that has to be met. And the bottom line is that there is 23,000 crypto assets that are operating, just in this space, okay? And not to say that they're all inefficient or they're all nascent, but there has to be a catalyst that takes and wipes the slate clean. Do you understand that? And it is coming. It is 110% coming. It is brewing. Like I said, there's a pot of soup. It's boiling, and they're continuously adding ingredients. And eventually that pot is going to boil over. Many blessings to you guys. Like I said, comment in the description down below. If you stuck around for this entire video breakdown, let me know your personal opinions. This is all my personal opinion. Nothing that I'm constituting here is a fact or financial advice. I just want to make clear that anybody investing, it doesn't matter if it's XRP, XLM, right? Quote unquote, the chosen cryptocurrencies, right? The Phoenix Rising, or even Bitcoin of that matter. At any point in time, you need to take into consideration that the government could come out with some massive black swan law that says, hey, look, Normal citizens are not allowed to own cryptocurrencies. All you can do is transact on our central bank digital currency. Here's some free money, take it, or we'll arrest you. That could happen. It is 110% a possibility. Nothing can be ruled out in this market. And the only way to protect yourself as of right now is to assess your risk properly. Have no emotional attachment to the money that you implement in this market. I cannot stress enough. I don't even care if you freaking invest in CYPRX, right? Which I've covered in recent videos showing you guys red flags, and people have laughed about that. Who cares? The only way to successfully invest in this market as of right now is if you're investing with money that you don't care about. If you care about the money that you have in this market, run far away, okay? Run far away. If you don't care about the money, then so be it. Continue to do what it is that you're doing. But I promise you this, in the next 3 to 5 years, this number is not going to be 23,000. It's going to be a lot less. And for that to happen, there has to be some type of catalyst. Well, this is me presenting to you all my idea of what that potential catalyst could be. This is not a fact. This is obviously, of course, speculation based off of the fundamentals and articles that I have displayed for you all here today. With that being said, as always, I cannot stress enough, be cognizant, be aware. Don't forget that the book release of Forever Efficient comes out in April, so look forward to that. You guys will be able to get a copy of that on Amazon.com. I will release the official release date of the book sometime in April. As always, generate your own bias, do your own personal research. Blessings to you guys all. I cannot thank you all enough for being subscribed to the channel. Smashing that thumbs up button, comment in the description down below your opinion on this. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video breakdown.
I won't stop till I hear him say